And we're going to have project-based learning. Really interesting stuff. It's going to be really good. So first up, we've got SEDA Group, Paul Dorio, and he's going to do the first presentation. Let's hear it. Thanks, Paul.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you this afternoon. The presentation's really centred around project-based learning and what we are doing at SEDA. And the presentation's certainly not about the technical skills or the knowledge behind project-based learning, and I'm certainly not an expert in teaching practice. But it's a new teaching practice that we've implemented into our college, into our curriculum for 2017. It was a really large shift in terms of what we were currently teaching with our programs, and trying to move into a new teaching and learning system where it was more engaging for our students, and trying to match our curriculum to the real world and trying to bring in those skills. So my role is Program and Education Coordinator at SEDA. So basically I look after a number of our programs, but I also look after the development of our curriculum. Our curriculum or our program is basically a VET and VCAL program, an applied learning program where we run our classes within 40 or 50 different locations across metropolitan and regional Melbourne. So I'm just going to show you a quick video about an introduction to SEDA and what we do.
All right. SEDA?
SEDA is a secondary, oh my gosh.
SEDA is a secondary education provider
that focuses on giving young people a hands-on education,
life skills,
unique industry experiences,
and qualifications,
including the opportunity to complete Year 12,
as well as a career plan
to set you up for further employment, that's not right,
or to set you up for employment
or further study.
At SEDA, you work towards completing the VCAL curriculum
and VET qualifications.
But you also work
with the biggest sporting organisations and elite clubs in the state, running coaching programs,
community events,
and spending 1 day a week on work placement.
learning firsthand about the career you're passionate about.
I spent 2 years with Cricket Australia,
Melbourne City,
Naval Victoria,
Melbourne Victory,
IFA Victoria,
Tennis Victoria,
Basketball Victoria,
Surfing Victoria,
lifesaving, yachting and swimming Victoria.
You finished SEDA with Year 12,
VCAL
and VET qualifications,
as well as years of work experience
and valuable industry contacts.
Through SEDA's relationship with key industry partners
and universities,
you have real opportunities waiting for you
as soon as you graduate.
I'm going to uni.
I'm ready to go straight into the workforce.
and I'm gonna go keep on studying.
And that's SEDA.
And that's SEDA.
And that's SEDA.
Hands-on learning,
Practical life skills,
real industry experiences.
setting you up for your future.
To find out more,
Visit sedagroup.
.com.au.
So I want to do a bit of a quick activity, something that I learned on a recent PD with Microsoft, and it was based from the Project Zero schools from the Harvard Education School. So what I'd like you to do is, just with the people on your table, is have a look at this image, and it's the See, Think, Wonder activity. So I'm just going to give you a couple of seconds. I just want you to have a look at the photo or the actual image and tell me what you see. So I don't want you to think about anything. So if I use an example of this box, tell me what you see with this box, that it's a rectangle, it's white. Just observe the actual image. I'll give you 30 seconds. Okay. Can I just get a couple of people just to give me some things that your group discussed or what you saw? Yep, children. Colour, yep. Yep, bubbles, speech bubbles. Symbols. Yep. Sorry? Hope? Okay, terrific. All right, now what I want you to do is, what do you think about when you see that particular image? Go again and discuss for 30 seconds. Okay, I'll leave it there. Can we have some takers this time to see what you think about? So what do we think about when we see that? Kids as individuals, yep. Aspirations. Sorry? Diversity of thought. Okay. The last stage is, what do you wonder about this particular picture? What are the things you're unsure of or you want to know? I'll give you another 20 or 30 seconds. Thanks. Okay. Let's stop there. So what do people wonder about this image? What do they want to know? What do you want to know more? Yeah, why? It's a good question. Yep. Will they achieve their dreams? I wonder why they're so happy. Yep. Thank you for those answers. So I suppose the point of this activity is, in terms of project-based learning and the way that we thought about our curriculum and our students, if you look at the cross-section of students there, the diversity, but even on your tables, with people on your tables, the different varying ideas, what you see, what you think, what you wonder is so different. And what we thought with our curriculum and the way things were, our student engagement, we wanted to challenge our students. We wanted to bring all those ideas and those thoughts together in a collaborative forum and develop our curriculum and develop our assessments so that students can actually work together and develop some really interesting projects, develop some interesting tasks that prepare them for the real world. So the workplace is ever changing. It's complex, it's connected and it's automated. So if we take our current workplaces and we think about our work environments, they've certainly changed. They're changing in a sense that a lot of our organisations are becoming open planned. There's limited desk spaces in a lot of organisations. They're becoming more collaborative. So we have a duty as educators to now set up our students and give our students those skills to be able to go out and do those particular, or have those particular skills to integrate into the workforce or into higher education or other institutions. So why project-based learning? We were finding that some of our students were becoming unengaged with what their learning was and the way that our learning was delivered. So we investigated. We researched and we looked at this method of delivery, and we know that it becomes more engaging for students. It improves learning, it promotes educational equity, it builds success for careers for further skills. It's an opportunity for students to use more technology and integrate technology. It makes teaching more enjoyable and rewarding and connects students with the real world. So there are a number of critical skills for students that we identified that we believed as an organisation were essential for them to integrate into the workplace. Our program is so unique that our students are in industry from year one. They work with our sporting partners. We're out in primary schools running a multitude of sporting clinics for primary age students. So we need our students to develop these skills. So we work on communication, or we identified communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity as the sole basis of what we were trying to do in terms of project-based learning. I was lucky enough to go to a PD in Sydney, which was Education Nation last year, and I went to a project-based learning session with a young family called the Hughes family, and they presented this project-based learning to the group, and their children presented. So one was in year 7, I think, or year 8 at the time, and the little brother was in grade 4, and they presented to a group of 20 or 30 teachers. And what they came up with was this little, I know it's hard to read, I apologise, this little scaffolding, a little bit of information about how they wanted to learn. okay? And they talked about learning as being interactive. They talked about a hands-on learning approach, being active in the classroom and not sitting down for the whole time. They talked about working towards an end product, a goal in sight, something that they can find that's tangible and that they can actually create. And they talked about no textbooks. Okay, something that's an educational environment that has guided research, that they can actually interact with the content and discover and learn. And we know when students own their own learning, these things actually occur. So they create interests. They have self-directed, they become system thinkers, okay, and they deep critical thinking skills and communication skills, etc. They learn to experiment. So a little bit about our project-based learning. We've based our project-based learning on the Buck Institute from the United States and around the gold standard and the things that are really critical in developing project-based learning. And some of our underlying development is using their scaffolding, using their resources to actually help us to develop those project-based learning. So in November, we set on a journey to basically flip our whole system of learning and thinking. So my esteemed colleague, Director of Technology at SEDA, talked about flipped learning in one of the sessions. So we've integrated flipped learning, we've also integrated the project-based learning into our curriculum and completely changed the way that we've delivered our programs. So what we've done is to supplement our project-based learning in terms of our delivery in face-to-face in the classroom, the work we do outside of the classroom and our assessment, we've developed what we call a My Plan. And the My Plan is actually an external plugin that has been created by our IT team and in consultation with us. And what that My Plan does, it actually enables the students to log into an online platform and talk about their experiences, their educational experiences and what they're doing in industry and all the skills that they're developing. But it also talks about or enables the staff and students to work on the essential skills that we need these students to progress and develop in order to become global citizens, as you like, or to basically integrate into the workforce. So we created a number of teaching and learning activities around these core skills. So we've created teaching and learning activities around teamwork, collaboration, communication. And these are all self-paced, self-directed learning tasks that we ask the students to complete in their own time to develop their own skills. Because in order for us to implement project-based learning into our curriculum, we need to ensure that our students have the basic skills to be able to do these things. It would be naive of us to ask our students to participate in project-based learning if we haven't given them the tools and techniques and skills to be able to do that and continue to teach them to do that. So with the My Plan, and that's just an example of a self-directed task that the students would do. Sometimes the staff member or the teacher would actually take them through those self-directed tasks if there was some extra learning that needed to take place in the classroom. So this is the My Plan. So these are our core skills or our basic SEDA core skills that we want our students to work on, to develop over a period of time, which we integrate into our project-based learning. These are the things that we want our students to be able to work on within our curriculum, to develop and to improve on. And when we speak to our industry partners and our community partners and people of employment, these are the skills that they want to see our students have in terms of being employable. So the IT team has created a plugin that our students and our staff can actually fill in this rubric. So the students and the staff actually have what we call My Plan meetings, and they come together and they discuss where they are on this continuum, and they come to a collaborative agreement. So each semester they meet, and they're ranked according to those areas or personal habits as the starting point, and how they're tracking and how they're travelling, and the teacher can actually put in comments. Okay, this is then shared in the My Plan meeting where parents are invited. And discussed as another point of contact with the parents. I think we all agree that the old traditional parent-teacher interviews probably is something that we're moving away from, and having that collaborative discussion with parents is probably more valuable in terms of them feeling part of the actual student's educational journey. The second part of the My Plan is actually the rubric in terms of these core skills that we're talking about. So we're working on project-based learning in the classroom. We're working on these skills explicitly through the assessment and also the self-paced learning and all the other things that we're doing in industry. Again, the students are ranking themselves and the staff are ranking these students, and they're coming up with an agreed level, and these are also discussed with the student. In semester 2, this will happen again, and those blue areas will then obviously go grey and be shaded out, and you can see the progression of the student, hopefully, moving up the levels in terms of where they're at the end of the year. For a student coming in Year 11 in our program and moving to Year 12, you would have 4 progressions throughout those 2 years. So hopefully by the end of the 2 years, you can really see that the student has developed these core skills for work that we've developed as an organisation. This portfolio will be able to be printed, and they can actually take that to their employer as evidence of what they've done in the program and I suppose some of the key elements of what they've been doing. So this is just a little bit about project-based learning and what we've done in the college and in our organisation. We also have a building and trade program, which has 2 classes at the moment. And there's I'll show you a small snippet of some flip learning that we've done in relation to integrating that into our project-based learning.
Hi, my name is Michael and I'm a part of the Building and Trade program at SEDA College. The project that we're working on today is our community-based project about the refugees, to give back to them because they've had such a hard life getting to Australia. So we're creating little fidget boards for their play area.
In the Building and Trade program, we do things that really relate to life in a workplace. Everything that we're going to need on a workplace, we're trying to learn in the classroom.
I've always wanted to do this kind of stuff at my old school. You couldn't really do that. So I've actually learned a lot of stuff like how to use a drill properly, gets you prepared for the real world.
Sugar do 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 do. Oh, honey, honey do 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 do. You are my girl.
Welcome to the Healthy Living Unit Overview video. In this unit, we'll be exploring the 3 main aspects of healthy living: physical health, social health, and mental health. In physical health, there's 2 main areas we're going to be looking at. The first being hidden sugars in everyday foods and the effects that these sugars have on our body. In this task, we'll watch the documentary That Sugar Film and create some extended responses surrounding the main themes of this film. In our second task, students will be creating a healthy food diary. This will involve keeping record of everything that they eat and drink for an entire school week. Students are then encouraged to research healthy alternatives and create a report to present their findings.
In social health, the key ideas students will be assessed on are positive.
So in that particular video, that was an area of study introduction for our students, which we've done some flip learning with our staff. So that's integrated into the start of the area of study. They can use and view that video anytime they like at home through my SEDA. And obviously then we've actually put in flip learning across the areas of study within the task, so prior to the task, giving the students information on and accessible information any time to actually, I suppose, get a deeper understanding of what's required within the assessment tasks and the projects that we're actually running. How do we measure the success? As I said, it's only been this year that we've really undertaken this big change within our organisation, but certainly student attendance is one thing that we're going by, and in terms of the engagement piece. We know that if students engage, they're going to come to school and they're going to be happy to come to school. And I certainly know that our coordinators are noticing that our student attendance is significantly higher and is improving consistently with our VCAL program in terms of our project-based learning. Our student attitudes to school survey. So how is the curriculum being presented in terms of our staff? Is it engaging? Is the project-based learning, our flipped learning environment, our current teaching environments working? We go by that in terms of our I suppose, surveys and the data that we get, and internal surveys and quizzes. So we build quizzes within Schoolbox for every area of study, and we ask students, teachers to log into those surveys to get, I suppose, feedback and data in terms of the areas of study, and we use that in our curriculum development moving forward in terms of what we need to improve, in terms of the resources, the teaching and learning activities, etc. With anything that you implement, there's always challenges. And the challenges that we have are from teachers. There's always, I suppose, a bit of a hindrance with teachers and apprehension with change. So are my students learning enough content? So learning is deep and comprehensive with project-based learning. It's learning for the future, and it's an opportunity to apply skills later. We've needed to get our teachers out of a situation and a mindset that they're not the sole vessel for knowledge anymore. They need to be the facilitators of knowledge. They need to get students to be inquisitive, to inquire about knowledge. So going back to our original photo, what did you wonder about that particular photo? What did you wonder? What did you want to know more about? And that's what we're challenging our students to do. What do you want to know more about? If you want to know something, let's give you the tools to find out. Here's a classic one for some of our students, or a lot of students, is I hate working in groups. I have to do all the work. I don't want my grades to be based upon that. And that's always a challenge when you have group work on project-based work with students. But I think it's about the education piece to our students. It's how we manage these projects, and it's having clear checkpoints along the way. It's checking in with our students. Because we're in an environment now where students are inquiring about learning, they're undertaking their own research, they're developing their skills, and we're facilitating those environments, we have more time to go around and actually see what students are doing and understand what they're doing, and actually have conversations with students about what they're investigating and what they're learning. And as a teacher, how can I manage all of this? And I don't think we need to see that in a negative light. It's managed chaos and does not have to be out of control. So it needs to be a situation where let the students actually investigate, let them learn. Because when they do integrate into society and when they do integrate into the workforce, there's not going to be someone there holding their hand the whole time. That brings me to the end. I hope certainly you got something out of that. If you would like to know more information about what we're doing, please feel free to email me or find me on LinkedIn, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions or show you what we're doing in the SEDA group. Thanks for your time.
Thanks so much, Paul.
Okay.
That was great. And just before you head off,
thank you very much.
a little
Thank you.
something for you. Thank you so much. Okay, so next up is another school who are going to be talking about leveraging project-based learning to support the personalisation of learning. And it's a pleasure to introduce two of my former colleagues, actually, from Melbourne Girls Grammar, Mary Louise O'Brien and Chris McNamara.
Welcome. I just want to start this session by saying when I spoke to Chris a couple of weeks ago and said, we've been asked to present on project-based learning, he said to me, but we're shit at that. I was like, great, we're off to a good start. However, I did convince him that we do use it a lot, and certainly the changes in Schoolbox in recent times has certainly supported the change. So we use it as a method of leveraging, and we leverage off it to support personalisation of learning for our girls. So personalised learning for us is the tailoring of pedagogy, curriculum, thank you, and the learning environment to meet the needs and aspirations of individual learners. In a personalised learning environment, learning starts with the learner, not the instructor, and the learner understands how she learns best. So she is active in designing her learning goals, and she is self-directed. The learner has a voice in how she will access and acquire information, and a choice in how she will express what she knows. Because we believe that when she owns and takes responsibility of her education, she will be more motivated and engaged in the whole learning process. everyone now talks at conferences everywhere I go, they talk about it's not just about the technology, it's so much more, and it's what you do with it. What we've done is we've really reimagined education for our girls, and that takes courage and a huge leap of faith, particularly on behalf of our parents. So reflecting on the school's beliefs, our intent, the philosophy, and right down to the program design, which Chris will touch on further in a minute. Over a 10-year period, some of the projects we've worked on are things like introducing a learning management system, and we're into about our almost 9th year with Schoolbox. We moved from a one-to-one notebook school, which we'd had a 20-year history as being a one-to-one notebook school. In 2012, we started the move to BYOT, and that is any device. The school doesn't stipulate whether it's a Windows or a Mac, it's any device. Of course, we've revisited the curriculum, the culture, which I'll talk a little bit more about as well. The structure of the school day has changed. Things like the homeroom to start the day has gone, allowing us an extra 20 minutes during the school day. And data analytics is something that we're very much focused on as well. Then along the way, there's been those small little things that can just make a huge difference, but they're quite easy to implement. Things like getting rid of the school bells, revisiting our timetables, and way back, we started offering just online electives that students could opt into. And that was just about getting the teachers in that mind frame of building online units. And now our curriculum from year 9 up is online. So for us, everything and every decision we make in the school is centred around the students. BYOT was a huge leap into the unknown, and one that was pivotal in the move to 100% digital, being a 100% digital environment. And we knew we were ready because of that long history we had. We knew that technology was embedded in everything we were doing. We implemented the LMS in 2010, and so by 2012 the technology was embedded, and it was seamless and normalised across the organisation, which has been a really good grounding for them for the move that we've made this year with our senior years program. The other bit was the culture bit, and this is in regards particularly to staffing and how we moved our staff. So when we've had to revisit our recruitment processes, and we're looking for staff that have the courage to take risks and move with us. They have to have a growth mindset. Of course, I'm looking for the technical ability as well. And we now look for teachers that can adapt to the coaching model rather than the sage on the stage. And of course, they have to be open, flexible and agile. So now I'm going to hand over to Chris, and he's going to talk about the senior years program which we've implemented this year.
Thanks, Lou. You'll notice we still haven't talked about project learning, based learning, and we've tried to compact that bit up as much as possible because, like I said, I don't think we're very good at it. But we're trying, and that's where you've got to start, I think. Yeah, so Lou talked about, in terms of it not being about the technology, in some ways not being even about the project-based learning or those sorts of things. The starting point for us is about what we intend for the girls, what's important for the girls, and why we think it's important. So if we talk about with our senior years program and all the way through school, for us, it's about learning to understand who they are as people and their identity, learning in a way that is about building their agency and capacity, and ultimately about autonomy. And so in the senior years program, we move to a personalised approach. So we move from what we talk about in the junior and middle years from a universal approach to a personalised approach for the senior years. And again, knowing that far ahead allows you to plan that culture and that sense of what does our staffing need to look like, what do we need to develop, so when we get to that point of implementing, we've got all our ducks in a row. And if you sit there and you think, well, or you might be a school, or we could have been a school that said, well, what's important to us for our girls is really good scores, then what you will implement is very different to if you say what's important for us is the girls making really good choices, being good decision makers and having a sense of autonomy. Then what you implement is very different, because you start with the what, why it's important to you, and then you work out, well, what's the model that brings that together for you. So for us, when we talked about what we wanted in terms of autonomy, the big thing is about time, and it's the construction of time in schools that everyone complains about, but no one's prepared to do anything about. So for us, when we talked about a model for senior years that was very much a holistic model of the academic as well as the wellbeing and the physical and the enterprise, and girls value all those equally, and we had to, as a school, say, well, we need to value all those equally and provide time for all those equally. At the same time, providing personalisation, providing autonomy, and so rather than well-being being a thing bolted on the side, or the physical being bolted on the side, all these things have equal prominence in the program. And for us, with autonomy, we kind of sat down one day and said, well, what happens if we, if we give the girls at least a control of at least a third of the time they're at school, complete control. And up to a half of the time they're at school. So our girls, when they come into Year 9, their timetable is sparsely filled, and they have a whole lot of independent learning time where they actually control the decisions they make about how they use that time based on whatever their personal needs might be at the time, whatever their goals are at the time. So project-based learning for us is really about something we thought fitted with that personalisation and that sense of autonomy and the way the girls would operate and develop that decision-making process. All of our programs, all of our courses at senior years, and this is a new model for us, and we've just started with Year 9 this year, all courses have to build in project-based learning into the course. So very much too about, if it's going to work, it has to be an all-in process. There's no course so special that it needs more time. There's no course so special that it gets to work on a different framework in terms of how we plan the experience for the girls. It's an all-in process and everyone has to do it. And again, what that means for us is that we've got a really collegial approach because everyone's paddling madly and everyone's sharing across curriculum areas and across courses. How is this working for you? What are you implementing that's working for you? What's your online, how are you tracking the data that's coming through online? So we have weekly lunches with all of our teachers in this program so they can share that sort of information for each other. It also means our kids hold everyone accountable because our kids know what's expected, and our kids say, they come up to me and they go, Mr. Mack, I thought it's meant to work like this because this course is not working like this. And I go, great, glad I know that. Now I can go and talk to the people in that course and we can fix up what's happening. So for us, project-based learning fits the model of what we're trying to do. We decided to implement a particular structure of PBL that would work for us, and I think that's the thing too, you've got to work out what works for you. So, the BIE model is a great model, the Buck one. We've probably used a bit of a blend of the Buck model and also design thinking to build our framework for what project-based learning has to look like. And again, we're all struggling a little bit with how it implements and how it works for our girls and how it works for our teachers. Am I keeping up? All right, so on Schoolbox, what we do when we design our courses is we have a project element, which you can see just there, Unit 3 project mini anthology of poems. So all of our units are broken down into content areas, so we chunk all our content into really clearly defined components for our girls, and at the end of each content area, which has clearly labelled learning outcomes and resources attached to it, there's a little task, a little mastery task that the girls have to complete, just so that they get feedback, yes, I'm on track, and the teacher knows, yes, you're on track, and they know that when they come to the project, they understand the material they're putting in place in the project. Some of our teachers will introduce the project from the very start and integrate those content areas along the way with the project. Other teachers have used the content areas first, get through all the content areas and then do the project. So we're still sort of looking at different ways and what works best for the girls. The feedback from the girls is they quite like to know what the project is, know what they're working towards, but compartmentalise the content areas first and then the project second, so that they know they're not trying to develop a project task at the same time as completing content area work. So again, we're listening to the feedback of the kids on that one in terms of what's working best. It's one of the challenges we're facing at the moment. We see that? Yeah. Okay, so this is one of the things we've developed on Schoolbox, with Schoolbox as well, in terms of project checkpoints. We think it's really important, again, to help our kids in terms of their project management and their planning and organisation, is that it's not just, this is what we want you to deliver at the end, and then we set them to work. We again chunk that down. So we like to see, well, the first part we want to see for you by about this date is what we've got there is the research and planning component of your project. And then once you've done that and we've signed off on that and you've got feedback on that either from the teacher or it might be peer-related feedback, the next part of the project is to work on the scripting and improvisation part of the project. This would be a drama one, I imagine. So again, there's clear checkpoints that the kids deliver, and all of them are really purposeful to the development of the end product the kid will present as part of their project. So they're not just, not checkpoints for the sake of it. The feedback's important, and that they know that by keeping to the timelines, they'll be successful in terms of getting to that end point. And some of the teachers have said, sometimes they're not at the stage they should be. It's not as good as it should be at that point in time, but I know they need to move on. And we've kind of said, no, you need to send them back. They need to redo that part again, because what you're trying to do is get them to the point that they know they're going to be successful in what they produce at the end. So every step is integrated and really important. Some teachers have put in a rubric base to this to say, well, at this point in the project, in terms of this checkpoint, I'm going to give you feedback on your writing skills, or I'm going to give you feedback on your communication skills, or whatever it is. Others have built in part of the grading system. So these two components, these two checkpoints are going to be weighted as part of the overall grade for the project. Again, helps keep the girls accountable, helps keep the teachers accountable, helps everyone meet the timelines. The next part for us, again, because of personalisation and self-pacing is really important for us, is what the girls can do is move whilst there's dates they should adhere to. They can pull I'll go backwards. You can see them all listed and stacked one on top of the other there, but they can then put them together as a timeline and say, well, I'm aiming to get this one done by the due date, or actually I think I can get it done 3 days early. So they can drag it in a little bit, and you can see in that little green band then they've created a little bit of space and time for themselves, which means they can start the next bit earlier than they had anticipated, and they can start to pull it all across. And again, because the girls control so much of their time, it means, well, if I finish this project early, because I'm really good at this, I'm going to free up even more time for me to work on another course, because this is one I need extra time and support for. So by being able to self-pace in a course I'm really great at, I can free up time to get extra support in a course I might struggle a little bit in. Or I can crack through all of them early, finish my whole semester in a term and a bit, and then I'll use the other 6 weeks to focus on something else, like an enterprise project or an internship, or on my physical well-being, whatever it might be. Where are we heading now? One of the other parts, the really important things, and again, this is within Schoolbox, is the feedback to the girls. So again, we've always had, and I suppose lots of schools have that issue, we've always had teachers talking about, the thing about it is we give the feedback when we do the task, and the kids see the grade and they put it away and they don't even look at the feedback. So eventually teachers start going, well, what's the point of the feedback, because they only look at the grade. And we trialled things like, well, give them the feedback, don't give them the grade, and then when they respond to the feedback, give them the grade. But now what we've able to do in terms of the mastery tasks and in terms of the checkpoints is then track all the feedback the girls get along the way. It's a bit of a balance, because some people want to give the feedback on the work rather than document it inside a Schoolbox. Other teachers will load in video files or audio files for the feedback, so the girls have got those as a combination of both written and oral feedback. And again, the girls can then track back through their semester and have a look at all the feedback. What we're trying to do is get this organised so that mastery tasks associated with the content areas are stacked together, and project-based feedback is stacked together. So when they're looking back through a project, they can see the feedback, or when they're preparing for their exams, they can have a look back through the content area feedback and say, okay, I mastered this, but there's feedback about I didn't quite understand this bit, so that's a bit I'll put some extra attention into as I revise for my exams. So yeah, so this has been a really important one for us. And very quickly, because we've got mastery tasks, we called them mastery assessments at the start, and the girls said, well, you've led us to believe that everything that's called an assessment has a grade, so if you want us to understand that this isn't graded, then don't call it an assessment. So that's why we changed the name to mastery tasks. And the girls very quickly started saying, well, hang on, you haven't given me feedback. And the teachers started to go, okay, so now they actually value the feedback because they see it as part of the process, and they see the value in the feedback, and they see the task as progression rather than graded. So that's been a good shift for us. and the girls talking about progress and development rather than grades. So for us, I suppose, you know, whichever change you do, if you go down the track of project-based learning, if you go down the track of giving your kids half their school day to decide for themselves what they do, whatever you decide to do, you know, that sense of leadership and building a culture towards that is really important. We've got a big thing about, whilst we might know ahead of time where we're heading, we have really short project periods. So the longer we have, the more questions that can get asked, the more confusion that can reign, all that sort of stuff. So what we do is sort of say, well, this is where we're going to be in 12 months' time. So in 12 months, we need to deliver this project. So our timelines are really quite short in getting things going. That's one of the important things for us. The sense of team. And again, whilst time is one of those really important things in schools, collaboration and team is one of those really important things in school. And if we're really honest about it, teams are not always brilliant in schools because teachers are not always developed as team players, because ultimately they close the door and they can do their own thing. So they can be part of a team which is a siloed team of history or science or whatever, but ultimately they still walk into a classroom that's their classroom and they do their own thing. So that sense of really developing and understanding what a team does and how a team works is a challenge within schools that we've kind of had to really broker. And I think the design thinking one for us has been in terms of mapping out how will our project run. Oh, don't worry about 10 minutes left, we're out of here soon. How will the project run? What will it look like over timelines has been one of the important things. And the willingness, I think, to say, this is where we want to be, but in 12 months' time, this is where we're going to aim to be, so that we have a sense of where we might be in 2 years' time, but we don't talk about that. We talk about where we want to be in 12 months' time because we don't want people to kind of jump ahead and panic. We want people to be able to deliver the contained amount that we want in 12 months' time, not be concerned about, but in 3 years' time it's meant to look like this. And it also means that we can wait and get feedback from the girls and again say, well, what does it need to look like at year 11, because this is the experience our girls need coming out of year 10 or coming in out of year 9. We can say, well, okay, if that's the experience out of year 9, we can now say what we think 11 should look like and why we want it to look like that. Here's the next 12-month project that will get us ready for these girls when they hop into year 11. And so I suppose the other thing for us is aligning, if the notion of personalisation is right for our girls, we've had to align that for our staff too. So it's again, as a community and in leading change and tips for success, for us it's about, you know, not keeping on talking about the girls, although it's the girls' experience. It's about saying, well, what does it have to look like for our teachers too? So if we're talking about personalisation for our girls, we need to start with our staff in terms of personalisation. So things like a while ago we started with, you know, we don't run set PL sessions for any of our staff. We don't have a PL afternoon or any of that sort of thing. We offer a whole lot of different opportunities and we say, well, you know your goals that you've documented, so you select the ones that are right for you at the time that's right for you. We'll offer them, we'll create them, we'll bring people in for them. Or you can come to us as a department or as individuals and say, this is what I think I need, do you think you can help me find that? And we do that for people. So all that sort of Wednesday afternoon PL doesn't exist at our place because we had to go, you know, if this is where we wanted to be for our kids, this is where we had to be for our staff first. Questions? There you go, Mary Lynn. There you go, I think we're kind of done. We're hoping to get you out for an early cocktail. But if you've got any questions, if you want to ask any questions, because we've got 5 minutes, I don't know, feel free.
I think we missed the first introductory slide too.
Did we? That might be good because that had our names on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, excellent. Yeah. All right. Sorry? What's next? I tell you what, James, you don't want to ask me what's next. Getting Schoolbox to deliver me some diagnostics on a day-by-day basis that my teachers can use and integrate the online and the classroom context and better understand where the girls are at in their online learning so they can integrate it to their classroom practice. Did you really want that answer, James? But yeah, so again, I suppose one of the things about getting through the process and not casting too far ahead leaves us an opportunity to be really adaptable, to listen to the girls when they say, this is what we want. You know, things like time, we've had to, you know, we've adjusted some of our course time because girls have come back and said, because this is an accelerated course and we're trying to cover year 9 and 10 in the 1 year, we don't think we've got enough class time. And we go, okay, well, that's fair enough. We probably need to give you an extra period or two a cycle, but everything else remains the same. And hearing from the girls about different elements of the program meant we could change things. Hearing from the teachers about what things that were working or what they wanted out of Schoolbox has meant we can change things as well. So yeah, again, allowing yourself to be really adaptable. We tried not to hear too much from the parents because it's the kids and the teachers' experience that's the important thing.
That's it.
Brilliant. Have a lovely afternoon.